When this family comedy promised to glorify, unify, and fill you with pride after being coffee-tized and blacula-rized, audiences had no idea they'd witness NBA legend Bill Russell's brother's masterpiece, a Mad Magazine artist's poster creation, or a forced celebrity cameo designed to boost studio confidence, all filmed in an abandoned temple with a cast destined for Cosby Show fame and directorial greatness. Fact 1. Bill Russell's big brother wrote it. When you think of the Russell name, basketball greatness immediately comes to mind, but the family's talents extended far beyond the court. Charlie Louis Russell Jr., the playwright who created Five on the Black Hand Side, was the older brother of NBA legend Bill Russell, the Boston Celtics Hall of Famer who won 11 championships. Born on March 10, 1932 in West Monroe, Louisiana, Charlie grew up alongside his younger brother, experiencing the harsh realities of racism in the Deep South during the 1930s. The brothers witnessed their mother being ordered by local police to go home and remove her dress because an officer thought it looked too much like something a white woman would wear. And they watched a gas station owner hold a shotgun to their father's face simply because he refused to wait while white customers were served ahead of him. These traumatic childhood experiences shaped Charlie's decision to become a writer focused on African American audiences and their struggles. After serving in Korea with the U.S. Army, Charlie earned his Bachelor of Science degree in English from the University of San Francisco in 1959, where he also played on the basketball team alongside his famous brother's legacy. He later received a master's degree in social work from New York University in 1966. Charlie became a member of the Harlem Writers Guild and worked as a play doctor, revising plays before production, when he developed the idea for Five on the Black Hand Side. While Bill Russell was revolutionizing basketball, Charlie Russell was breaking new ground in theater, creating what became the first comedic depiction of everyday life in an African American family when his play premiered off-Broadway in January 1970. Fact 2. Producers sang on Day O. Long before Brock Peters took on the role of producer for Five on the Black Hand Side, he was already an entertainment industry veteran with an incredibly diverse resume that most people never knew about. Peters, born George Fisher on July 2, 1927 in New York City, is best remembered for his powerful and heartbreaking performance as Tom Robinson, the wrongly accused man in the 1962 film adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird opposite Gregory Peck. However, few realize that Peters had a successful singing career that intersected with one of the most iconic songs in American music history. In 1956, Peters provided background vocals for Harry Belafonte's legendary hit, Day O, also known as the Banana Boat Song, which became a massive commercial success and cultural phenomenon. Peters didn't just contribute to that one track. He led the chorus at recording sessions for Belafonte's groundbreaking album Calypso, which became the first LP to sell over 1 million copies. Peters and Belafonte developed a close friendship during this time, sharing similar political views and approaches to their careers in entertainment and civil rights activism. Peters continued his vocal collaboration with Belafonte on the 1957 hit Mama Look at Boo Boo, and performed on Randy Weston's jazz albums as well. This musical background gave Peters a deep understanding of the entertainment industry from multiple angles as a singer, actor, and activist, which made him uniquely qualified to produce Five on the Black Hand Side. The film marked Peters' first and only venture as a film producer, a project he took on specifically because he believed in the positive message and family-centered story that contrasted sharply with the violent blaxploitation films dominating theaters at the time. Fact 3. Mad Magazine artist created the poster. The eye-catching promotional poster for Five on the Black Hand Side came from the pen of one of America's most recognized and influential illustrators, even if audiences didn't realize it at the time. Jack Davis, a founding member of Mad Magazine's legendary Usual Gang of Idiots, created the film's vibrant poster art with his signature style of crowded, energetic compositions filled with exaggerated caricatures and visual humor. Born on December 2, 1924 in Atlanta, Georgia, Davis had already established himself as a master of comedic illustration through his work on the first 30 issues of Mad Magazine, starting in 1952. His distinctive artistic approach featured characters with oversized heads, skinny legs, huge feet, and scratchy black ink, work that became instantly recognizable across American pop culture. Davis left Mad Magazine in 1956 following a dispute between editor Harvey Kurtzman and publisher Bill Gaines, but he returned in 1965 and continued contributing for over 30 more years. By the time Five on the Black Hand Side needed promotional artwork in 1973, Davis had become the go-to illustrator for movie posters, having created the iconic poster for Stanley Kramer's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World in 1963. That breakthrough led to a prolific career designing posters for more than 40 films, including Woody Allen's Bananas in 1971, Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye in 1973, and The Bad News Bears in 1976, which was particularly ironic since he had also designed the poster for the film itself. Davis's ability to pack dozens of characters and sight gags into a single composition while maintaining clarity and humor made him perfect for capturing the ensemble cast and family dynamics of Five on the Black Hand Side. Fact 4. Future Emmy director's film debut. When Carl Franklin appeared in Five on the Black Hand Side as Marvin, the groom marrying into the Brooks family, nobody could have predicted that this young actor would eventually become one of television's most respected directors. Born on April 11, 1949 in Richmond, California, Franklin made his very first on-screen appearance in this 1973 film, playing a character who embraced African culture and wanted an Afrocentric wedding ceremony. Franklin had studied at the University of California, Berkeley, earning a degree in history and dramatic arts while also performing in theater productions and playing on the school's basketball team. After his film debut in Five on the Black Hand Side, Franklin landed steady work in television throughout the 1970s and 80s, appearing in shows like The Rockford Files, Good Times, The Incredible Hulk, and The Streets of San Francisco. He became a series regular on several shows, including the police drama Caribe in 1975 and the science fiction series The Fantastic Journey in 1977. Franklin even had a recurring role as Captain Crane on the hit action series The A-Team during the mid-1980s. However, Franklin grew increasingly frustrated with the limited and often stereotypical roles available to black actors, later stating that acting wasn't fulfilling him anymore. In 1986, he enrolled in the American Film Institute's directing program and earned his Master of Fine Arts degree, launching an entirely new career behind the camera. Franklin's directorial breakthrough came with the acclaimed crime thriller One False Move in 1992, followed by Devil in a Blue Dress, starring Denzel Washington in 1995. He has since directed numerous prestige television series, including House of Cards, The Pacific, Homeland, Mindhunter, and Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer Story. Fact 5. Cosby Show connection runs deep. The woman who played the meek, long-suffering Mrs. Gladys Ann Brooks would later become one of television's most beloved grandmothers on a completely different show. Clarice Taylor, born on September 20, 1917 in Buckingham County, Virginia, brought depth and dignity to the role of Mrs. Brooks, the wife who finally stands up to her domineering husband. Taylor had originated the role in the 1969 off-Broadway production at the American Place Theater, so when the play was adapted for film in 1973, she was the natural choice to reprise her performance. Playwright Charlie Russell specifically wanted Taylor, saying, "She created the part. She is a wonderful woman, great actress, great person. I really got she." To know her more when we did the movie. Taylor had been working with the Negro Ensemble Company, an organization she helped found in the late 1960s when opportunities for African American actors remained severely limited. To support herself early in her career, she had followed in her father's footsteps and worked for the U.S. Post Office until she could act full-time. After Five on the Black Hand Side, Taylor continued, building an impressive resume with recurring roles on Sanford and Son as Cousin Emma and a 13-year run on Sesame Street as David's grandmother Grace. However, her most famous role came in 1984 when she was cast as Anna Huxtable, the mother of Bill Cosby's character Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Her portrayal of the wise, loving grandmother earned Taylor an Emmy Award nomination in 1986, introducing her to millions of viewers who had no idea she had starred in films decades earlier. Taylor continued acting well into her 80s, appearing in films like Summersby in 1993 and Smoke in 1995, and performing her acclaimed one-woman show Moms, which won her an Obie Award in 1987. Fact 6. Filmed in a real abandoned temple. The climactic wedding scene that brings the entire Brooks family together in celebration of African culture and family unity wasn't filmed on a Hollywood soundstage with carefully constructed sets. According to the film's official press book, the production team discovered and utilized an actual abandoned temple somewhere in Los Angeles, giving the elaborate African-themed wedding ceremony an authentic and somewhat mysterious atmosphere that would have been difficult to replicate artificially. The choice to film in this unusual location added genuine texture and history to the scene, with the temple's existing architecture and weathered details providing a sense of sacred space that perfectly matched the spiritual and cultural significance of the wedding ceremony. The production didn't have a massive budget to work with, so finding existing locations that could provide visual interest and authenticity became essential to the film's success. The abandoned temple's spacious interior allowed the production to stage the full wedding celebration with traditional African elements, drums, colorful clothing, and the gathered community all coming together in what becomes the film's most visually striking and emotionally satisfying sequence. The specific location of this temple and its original purpose remain something of a mystery, as contemporary sources mention its use, but provide no additional details about which temple was used or what happened to the building afterward. This real location choice reflected the production team's commitment to authenticity and their resourcefulness in creating a visually memorable finale despite financial limitations. The temple setting elevated what could have been a standard wedding scene into something more meaningful, reinforcing the film's themes about connecting with African heritage and finding new ways to celebrate family and culture beyond traditional Western conventions. Fact 7. Watts instead of Harlem. When Charlie Russell wrote his original play, Five on the Black Hand Side, he set the story in Harlem, the historic neighborhood in Upper Manhattan that had been the heart of African American culture and community for decades. However, when the time came to adapt the play for film in 1973, the production faced a practical problem that forced a significant geographical change. According to a November 1973 article in Daily Variety, the filmmakers made the decision to relocate the entire story from New York City to Los Angeles specifically because of financial concerns and budget constraints. Filming in New York would have been considerably more expensive, requiring the production to transport cast and crew across the country and deal with higher location fees and union costs associated with East Coast production. Instead, the film was shot entirely on location in the Watts area of Los Angeles, California, the predominantly African-American neighborhood that had gained national attention following the Watts riots of 1965. This geographical shift actually worked surprisingly well for the story, as the Brooks family's experiences with generational conflict, women's liberation, and African-American identity felt universal rather than tied to any specific city. The Watts location provided authentic street scenes, barbershops, and residential neighborhoods that captured the same middle-class Black community atmosphere that Russell had envisioned in Harlem. Downtown Los Angeles doubled for the urban environment where the Brooks family lived, worked, and navigated their relationships. Interestingly, many reviewers noted that the film's setting felt deliberately ambiguous. It could have been in the Northeast, the West Coast, or the South, which actually strengthened the story's appeal and relatability. The film's modest budget of approximately $200,000 meant every financial decision mattered, and shooting in Los Angeles rather than New York likely saved the production from running out of money before completing filming. Fact 8. The tagline, Roasted Blaxploitation. The marketing team behind Five on the Black Hand Side didn't shy away from addressing the elephant in the room, the fact that their family-friendly comedy was being released into a marketplace dominated by violent, sexploited action films targeted at Black audiences. The film's tagline became a cheeky and direct challenge to the blaxploitation genre that was flooding theaters with titles like Coffee, Blacula, and Superfly. The promotional materials boldly declared, "You've been coffee-tized, blacula-rized, and superflied, but now you're going to be glorified, unified, and filled with pride when you see 5 on the black-hand side." This wasn't subtle. It was a full-throated rejection of what the filmmakers saw as the problematic trends in black cinema at the time. The tagline specifically name-checked 3 of the era's biggest blaxploitation hits. Coffee, Pam Grier's 1973 revenge thriller about a nurse who becomes a vigilante. Blacula, the 1972 horror film about an African prince turned vampire. And Superfly, the 1972 crime drama about a cocaine dealer trying to make one last score. By turning these titles into verbs suggesting audience exhaustion or overexposure, the marketing positioned 5 on the black-hand side as a refreshing alternative that would restore dignity and positive representation. The taglines promised to glorify, unify, and fill with pride explicitly contrasted with the violence, horror, and criminal activities that characterized typical blaxploitation fare. Charlie Russell and producer Brock Peters had intentionally conceived the film as an antidote to these violent films, wanting to show that black cinema could tell stories about everyday family life, generational conflicts, and social change without resorting to pimps, drug dealers, or supernatural monsters. The boldness of this marketing approach demonstrated both confidence in their product and frustration with how Hollywood was portraying African American life during the early 1970s. Fact 9. Mysterious rating change. The Motion Picture Association of America's rating system had only been in place since 1968, and 5 on the black-hand side somehow managed to receive 2 different ratings during its theatrical release, creating confusion that persists in historical records to this day. When the film premiered in October 1973, it carried a PG rating, meaning parental guidance was suggested for younger viewers. This rating made sense for a family comedy dealing with themes of marital conflict, women's liberation, and generational rebellion, even though the film contained no violence, sexual content, or significant profanity. However, according to the official MPAA website records, the film was later re-edited to achieve a G rating, meaning it was deemed appropriate for general audiences of all ages without any parental guidance needed. This re-editing apparently happened sometime in 1973, the same year as the film's release. What makes this situation particularly strange is that many contemporary film reviews, including those published in February 1974 in Los Angeles newspapers, continued to list the picture's rating as PG, despite the MPAA's official change to G. It's unclear exactly what content was removed or altered to achieve the more family-friendly G rating, or why the producers and distributor United Artists felt this change was necessary. Perhaps they hoped a G rating would encourage more families with young children to attend, expanding the potential audience beyond teenagers and adults. The fact that reviews and promotional materials continued citing the PG rating suggests the change may not have been widely communicated or that theaters were slow to update their marquees and advertising. This rating confusion highlights the evolving nature of film classification in the early 1970s and the different standards applied to African American family stories compared to mainstream Hollywood comedies of the same era. Fact 10. Godfrey Cambridge's desperate cameo. When studios and distributors lack confidence in a film's commercial potential, they sometimes make last-minute decisions to add recognizable star power in hopes of attracting more audiences. That's exactly what happened with 5 on the Black-Hand Side, resulting in one of the most awkwardly forced cameo appearances in 1970s cinema. Godfrey Cambridge, the acclaimed comedian and actor who had starred in major films like Watermelon Man in 1970 and Cotton Comes to Harlem in 1970, was convinced to appear in a brief opening scene that had absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movie. According to film critic Greg Ferrara, writing for Turner Classic Movies, the studio executives worried that the film lacked sufficient star power and commercial appeal. So they created an opening vignette where Cambridge plays a frustrated driver who gets into a minor fender bender that was entirely his own fault. When Cambridge emerges from his vehicle, the other driver immediately recognizes him and exclaims, "Hey, you're Godfrey Cambridge." The actor essentially appears as himself in what amounts to a brief comedic sketch before the actual film begins. This transparent attempt to leverage Cambridge's fame and popularity feels completely disconnected from the Brooks family story that follows, serving no narrative purpose whatsoever. Ferrara noted that this addition signaled a lack of confidence on the part of the studios with the strength of the finished product, adding that they needn't have worried because the film's ensemble cast and family-centered story were more than strong enough to carry the movie. Cambridge's talents were essentially wasted on this throwaway moment designed purely for marketing purposes. The cameo stands as a reminder of how Hollywood studios in the 1970s often underestimated the appeal of thoughtful, well-crafted black family stories, assuming that only familiar celebrity faces could attract audiences to theaters. Fact 11. Color Purple Connection. The actor who portrayed the stern, old-fashioned patriarch, John Henry Brooks Jr., went on to work with one of Hollywood's most celebrated directors on an Oscar-nominated masterpiece over a decade later. Leonard Jackson, who brought complexity and eventually vulnerability to the role of the domineering barber who rules his family with an iron fist, caught the attention of Steven Spielberg years after Five on the Black Hand Side left theaters. In 1985, 15 years after the Brooks family story first appeared on screen, Spielberg cast Jackson in his powerful adaptation of Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, The Color Purple. While Jackson's specific role in Spielberg's film wasn't a leading part, his presence in such a prestigious production demonstrated the lasting impression he had made in the industry. Jackson's performance as Mr. Brooks showcased his ability to portray a difficult, unsympathetic character who believed his harsh treatment of his wife and children was justified because he was training them properly, yet who could also reveal deeper layers of fear and confusion when his authority was challenged. The barbershop scenes where Mr. Brooks holds court among his male friends, boasting about his ability to control his household, remain some of the film's most memorable moments. Jackson brought authenticity to these scenes, making Mr. Brooks feel like a real person rather than a simple villain, someone whose rigid views on masculinity and family hierarchy were being challenged by the changing times of the early 1970s. His work demonstrated the kind of dramatic range that would later appeal to a director like Spielberg, who was known for casting actors who could convey complex emotions and inner conflicts. The connection between these two films, both dealing with African-American family dynamics, gender roles, and the struggle for personal dignity, shows how Jackson's career bridged different eras of black cinema. Fact 12. In living color parody. Nearly 2 decades after Five on the Black Hand Side premiered, the groundbreaking relationship dynamics between Mr. and Mrs. Brooks received unexpected recognition from one of television's most influential comedy series. In Living Color, the revolutionary Fox sketch comedy show created by Keenan Ivory Wayans that ran from 1990 to 1994, produced a parody sketch with the same title as the film. The show, which featured a predominantly black cast and tackled racial issues with sharp satirical humor, clearly found the power struggle between the domineering husband and his long-suffering wife to be rich material for comedy. While specific details about the sketch's content aren't extensively documented, the fact that In Living Color chose to reference this particular film speaks volumes about its lasting cultural impact within the African-American community. The Wayans family and their collaborators on In Living Color were known for creating sketches that resonated with black audiences' lived experiences and cultural memory, often referencing films, music, and social dynamics that mainstream white audiences might not immediately recognize. Their decision to parody the Brooks family dynamic suggests that Five on the Black Hand Side had become part of the shared cultural vocabulary among black Americans, even if the film itself had only received limited theatrical distribution and wasn't widely known outside African American communities. The parody also indicates that the themes Russell explored in 1973, patriarchal control, women's liberation, generational conflict, and changing gender roles, remained relevant and recognizable 20 years later. In Living Color frequently examined these same tensions through various recurring characters and sketches, so the connection to Five on the Black Hand Side made perfect sense for a show dedicated to exploring the complexities and contradictions of Black life in America with fearless humor and social commentary. Fact 13. Nigeria Research Grant. The creative journey of Five on the Black Hand Side didn't end when the film completed production and hit theaters in 1973. In fact, that same year, playwright Charlie L. Russell received recognition and support that would deepen his understanding of the African heritage themes he had explored in his work. The Institute of International Education, an organization dedicated to promoting cultural exchange and international understanding, provided Russell with a substantial grant to travel to Nigeria for 3 months to study African rituals and ceremonies firsthand. This timing was no coincidence. The film prominently featured an African-themed wedding ceremony that reflected the growing interest among African Americans in connecting with their ancestral roots during the Black Power era of the late 1960s and early 1970s. Russell's grant allowed him to immerse himself in authentic African cultural practices rather than relying on second-hand information or romanticized versions of African traditions. During his 3-month stay in Nigeria, Russell observed traditional ceremonies, interviewed cultural practitioners, and gained deeper insights into how African rituals functioned within their original contexts. This research trip came during a period of intense cultural awakening in African American communities, when many Black Americans were actively seeking to understand and reclaim connections to African heritage that had been systematically destroyed during centuries of slavery and segregation. Russell's commitment to authentic cultural representation distinguished him from other writers who might have simply appropriated African imagery for dramatic effect without understanding its deeper meanings. The grant also reflected the growing recognition of Black artists and intellectuals as important cultural ambassadors whose work bridged African and African American experiences. Russell later received additional prestigious recognition, including a Rockefeller Playwrights Grant in 1975, further validating his contributions to American theater and his efforts to create work that raised consciousness and promoted unity within Black communities. Fact 14. Play renamed from Gladys. Before Five on the Black Hand Side became the memorable title that would define Charlie Russell's most famous work, the play had a completely different name that directly referenced the women's liberation movement sweeping America in the late 1960s. Russell originally titled his play simply Gladys, naming it after Mrs. Gladys Ann Brooks, the central character whose transformation from meek, obedient wife to empowered woman demanding respect forms the emotional heart of the story. This original title made Russell's intentions crystal clear. He was writing about one woman's personal liberation and her refusal to remain under her husband's oppressive thumb. The naming choice explicitly connected the Brooks family's domestic drama to the broader feminist movement happening across America, particularly among educated middle-class women who were beginning to challenge traditional gender roles and demand equality in their marriages and workplaces. Russell had been inspired by the women's liberation activities he witnessed while working at City College in New York, where female students and faculty were actively organizing, protesting, and demanding changes to patriarchal systems. By centering Gladys in the title, Russell emphasized that this was her story, her journey, and her moment of transformation. However, at some point during the play's development, Russell changed the title to the more cryptic and culturally specific Five on the Black Hand Side, which referred to a popular variation of the traditional handshake within African American communities during that era. In this greeting, two people would slap their palms together in a traditional high five, then rub the backs of their hands together, completing the Five on the Black Hand Side. This title shift broadened the play's focus beyond just Gladys's individual liberation to encompass the entire family's journey and their connection to Black cultural identity and community solidarity during a period of intense social change. Fact 15. Fourth wall breaking moment. While most films from the early 1970s maintained traditional narrative boundaries that kept characters firmly inside their fictional worlds, Five on the Black Hand Side includes a startling moment where the patriarch directly acknowledges the audience's presence. At a crucial point in the story, when Mr. John Henry Brooks Jr., finds himself besieged by his rebellious wife and children who have finally united against his tyrannical behavior. He does something completely unexpected for a realistic family drama. Brooks suddenly stops participating in the scene, turns his head to look directly into the camera lens, and exclaims to the audience, "The bad guys are winning." This brief fourth wall break injects a moment of self-aware comedy into the film, acknowledging the absurdity of Brooks's situation from his own warped perspective. From his traditional patriarchal viewpoint, his wife's demand for respect and his children's progressive politics make them the villains of his personal story, even though the audience has been watching him behave abusively and unreasonably throughout the entire film. The moment works as both comedy and commentary, revealing how Brooks genuinely sees himself as the victim rather than recognizing his own role in creating the family crisis. Fourth wall breaks were relatively uncommon in dramatic films during this period, though they had a long history in comedy and were becoming more popular in countercultural cinema of the late 1960s and early 1970s. Directors like Woody Allen would later make fourth wall breaking a signature technique, but in 1973 it still felt fresh and unexpected, particularly in a film centered on African American family life. This single moment of breaking the fourth wall serves multiple purposes. It provides a laugh, it reveals Brooks's self-delusion, and it reminds viewers that they're watching a constructed story with a point of view and a message about social change and family dynamics during a transformative era in American history.